we as hosts and organizers would like to welcome Kumar Ranjan, who is a part of our founding members too of one of these groups. And he is today here to explain us about Dataverse. Kumar is an very passionate contributor to community platforms and is always there to help you, irrespective of whether you're part of his organization or you are reaching him out from social media. And he is immensely talented and working with Power Platform and Power BI for past 5 years. And is contributing very well to the social platforms. So welcome here, Kumar, and the stage is yours. We'd like to learn much about Dataverse today.
Yeah, thank you, Abhinav. So it's always awesome to have a presentation among you guys, and it's icing on the cake when I have my favorite topics around the Power Platform and Power BI area. So it's awesome, and thank you again for having me over here and giving me the opportunity to share some light on Dataverse and Power Apps. Let me share up my screen. Okay, let's. Okay, so the agenda of today is we will be starting with Dataverse, about Dataverse, why Dataverse is so widely used for Power Platform, how it is different from the various external connectors that we have, why should we use and leverage Dataverse, and then we would be uh, going into the demo mode of the Dataverse, and we will be creating an apps that would be using the Dataverse that we have, Dataverse table that we have right now. So starting with Dataverse.
Kumar, just a minute. You shared your wrong screen. I think your PPT screen is not visible. Your preview screen is visible to us.
Okay, let me share back again. Can you see this now, Dhruvin?
I can see PowerPoint screen. Yeah, it's perfect now. Yep.
Okay, so today, as I said, I will be discussing about the Dataverse and the things around that, why it has been a talk of the community, what's good in database, what are the areas in which we should leverage database, and what are the areas in which it's not a good practice to leverage Dataverse. So let's have a deep dive into it. So when we talk of Power Platform, the first thing we need to talk is about data. So, and every entity within Power Platform, either it be Power BI that is required for the analysis of the business, and the analysis will require data. Then we have another Power Platform thing that does the RPA automation and workflows around the data. And then we have something that can act upon data, and that is called as Power Apps. And then we can have the chatbots that you can create on the top of data with using virtual agent within the Power Platform. So the data what we have, we can get connected to the data in the form of connectors. So we can have right now in Power Apps 475 plus different connectors. So we can connect to SharePoint, we can connect to Excel, we can connect to Amazon, we can connect to Azure, you name the data sources, and we have a connector available. For those things that we do not have a connector, you can always go for a custom connector as well. So it's super useful to have a connector, and we can say that it's external data that you are using to build your Power BI. You can have analysis services, you can have SQL Server, everything. And again, you can have the same goes for Power Apps, where you can have cubes and SQL and other sources as well as in SharePoint and Excel. Now, one more thing that I wanted to take over here is when we say connectors, we are talking about the external data sources that we have, and these Power Platform component that you can see on the screen can also be constructed over what is internal connector that we has, and the internal connector that we have is called as the Dataverse. So what is Dataverse then? As I said, we can have external type of connectivity that allows us to connect to SharePoint, Excel, and so on and so forth. And then we can have the internal way of connecting to the tables. And one more point that I want to highlight is why we should use external connectors. So I want to highlight 2 points. The first point is it is super easy. You are already using in your enterprise level SQL, maybe Excel, maybe SharePoint, maybe OneDrive, and so on and so forth. So it's very easy for you to click on a button and have it connected with the data that you have. The second point is you have invested heavily on your setup. You have invested to buy the enterprise licensing of SQL Server. You have invested something on your Azure front or on your Microsoft licenses. So it's home of your data right now. It would be very easy for you to connect to that SQL and create your own apps, connect to that SQL and create your own Power BI reports as well. But now, as I said, we are currently 475 plus nearly 500 kinds of connectors available that goes for various APIs, various different sources. We have on-premises data gateway that allow you to connect to the on-premises data sources as well. And then you can also have the custom connectors for those connections that are not there. You might be wondering then, okay, if I have these many connectors and if I have these many external sources and a way to connect them, why we should go for a Dataverse? Now, let's talk about this. Why Dataverse? So the first thing is it's smart. It is having its own tables. Some of the tables are very standard tables that are inbox table given to us by Dataverse. We can leverage those tables. We can have our relationships built on top of that, and we can have the business logics in place. We can have the calculations, the roll-ups, the if else logic that we have. So it's smart in doing the calculations. The second point is it scales. So everything inside the Dataverse is managed from the Azure in the backend. So you do not have to worry about where your data will be stored and how it will be scaled. Every time when you have a limit getting reached to say more than the expected limit of your GBs, you can just click a button and you can scale up there. And the last point is it's secure. We can have the row level security that is row by row. We can have the column level security inside Dataverse. What we can also have is the environment level security within Dataverse. So I can have a Dataverse database in Japan. I can have it in North America. I can have it in some other places as well. So we can have different layer of security embedded within the Dataverse. We can talk about these things in detail as we move on. Now, coming to this important aspect, the app you can build, since we are having a kind of a comparison between the external connector and the Dataverse, we can have this comparison on what all you can build on the top of the connectors and Dataverse. So to begin with, we have the Power Apps, the people working in Power Apps. We have a Canvas way of doing the Power Apps, and we have a model-driven app way of doing the things. We can have Power Portal ways of doing the things. So the Power Canvas apps and the Power App model-driven app. So the Canvas app can be built on the top of the external connectors, and it can use the Dataverse as well. Now, when we say the model-driven app that can be built on the top of the Dataverse table that you can have the standard set of tables that the Dataverse will be giving you. You can create your own custom tables that can be used as a relationship and join, and then you can create a lot many model-driven app that would be super quick and super easy to use. Then you have Power Portals. Again, Power Portals is something that to be used with Dataverse on the top of Dataverse. Then you have Microsoft Flows, also called as Power Automate, that can be built on both using external data and Dataverse. We have AI builder tables that are available directly within Dataverse. You can create a model on top of it as well. And then the Power BI, as we all know, can include both Dataverse, that is our internal and the external data connectors as well. And then we have Power.
Kumar, you got mute somehow.
Were you able to hear me, or it was all blank?
No, only 2 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 to 3 seconds. Yeah.
Right. So we have this kind of bifurcation where we want to use external connectors and the Dataverse. And as you can see on the screen, and I was onto the last Power BI and Power Virtual Agents that can be used for both the external connectors and the Dataverse. Now, coming to a very interesting thing, what is Dataverse? So we have done a few slides before that says this is external, this is internal, but what is actually Dataverse? So I want to say Dataverse easily structures a variety of data. And when I say variety of data, I would like to emphasize the fact that Dataverse is a relational database. It is an RDMS. Plus, we can have different kinds of data, as in we can have the Parquet file format of data. We can have text. The client can have images. So it gives us a variety of data types and enriched data types to work with. So for example, I have seen something that says as choices. And you can have choices as the Boolean expression. You can have choices as multi-selection. So this is something that was not pre-available inside the other sources that I work with, like in SQL. So it's the first thing is it should be easily structured. I mean, it should be like drag and drop of things from the table directly into the canvas. That's the first point. The second point is the variety of data that you get for, as I said, the images, data types, and the links, the attachments. So this is a wide range of things that you get. The third thing is the business logic that you can put at the top of your columns. You can have the roll-ups and you can have the calculated expressions. The calculated expressions can take the aggregations, average, sum, max, min, and then you can have the roll-ups that you can relate to two different tables within Dataverse. So you can have the business logic, and then using Dataverse within the single row of the record that we have that can be used to connect multiple applications at the same time. Let's talk, for example, we can have a Power BI built on the top of Dataverse. We can use that Power BI embedded within Power App. So the Power App can wrap a Power BI within itself, and for the single row of data, you are interacting with two different things at the same point of time. So we can say that these are interconnected applications working together, or we can have a Microsoft Flow embedded within the Power App, and Power BI, Power App, and Power Flow all together working inside the same layer. And then the last thing is it does everything, and that's the most important thing. It does everything in a very secure and in a very compliant manner. So as we discussed, so we have Azure AD authentication enabled for the Dataverse, and for each environment, we can have a different level of settings for the users. So we can have multiple row level securities. We can have multiple kind of securities as per the environment that I have. So it gives us the security layer within the environment boundary, as in different countries. It gives a security layer within your own tenant for the read access, for the write access, for a row level kind of a security access. That is about what is Dataverse. So now we can dive a bit deeper on these components that I'm talking about. I want to again emphasize on the fact that whatever you are doing on a Dataverse side of the things is always an API first. So, and there will be some limitations to how many API requests you will be sending and you will be receiving. So everything you do in the Dataverse is an API. Now, let's explain each and every component. So we have talked about this, the security. Everything inside the Dataverse is managed by Azure. So we have Azure AD authentication, we have the row level based security, we have the enrich auditing capabilities that we get as a security inside database. We have an environmental level security as well. After security, we can have the logics that are built on the top of the tables that we have. We can have calculations, we can have roll-ups, we can have different plugins available, we can have different workflows, and one thing is also there, you can have a logic for the duplicate detection. So let's say you have a user table and you have a first name, last name, email ID, and you can detect the duplicates and mark it as a flag if the same first name, last name, email ID appears twice. That's the logic and the business logic side of the things. And then you have the data. So the heart of the Dataverse is obviously the data. You can do modeling within the data. Power BI also provides a way where you can have the direct query directly interacting with your data on a live scenario if you are using a Dataverse. You can have different kind of validation checks. You can have multi-language and multi-currency inside your model. And then what we want to talk about is storage. So everything is maintained within Azure, and you can be authenticated using your Azure AD. And then we can also have log files, and we can also have the storage within the blob storage for your files and for your images and for your attachments. So as a person developing the app, as a person doing development on the Dataverse, you should not have to worry about the storage. It's taken care by Microsoft, and they are having various kinds of optimizations as well on the top of the data. So by seeing of your data, they will have the best kind of a storage for it. They will have the best kind of indexes applied to your table so that it would be faster. So I have read some questions over internet and inside Power Apps community as well that says, what will be the downside of the Dataverse if I am querying a 10 million row set? And they were comparing this with a direct query limitation that comes with that you have exceeded 1 million row set. And there are ways to answer this question. You may have 1 million row for you is different in a way how you write the query. 1 million row can be different for me as I write the query. So there can be downside, and there can be different ways of writing this thing, different ways of retrieving the data, different ways of reducing the optimization and storing the data as well. But I have seen posts where people are working with billions and trillions of data inside a single table within Dataverse, and they have fast retrieval of the results within seconds. So it's depend on how you store the data and what formulas you write to extract the data from within Dataverse. And at the last, we have the integration. So it's very important for us to integrate the data of Dataverse, integrate the tables of Dataverse within different applications, within different sources. Like you can have your Dataverse included within Microsoft SQL Server. So there is a way to attach your Dataverse database inside SQL Server. We can also have the Dataverse tables and the Dataverse database within Azure Synapse Analytics. So for the people for which Synapse is new, so Azure Synapse provides a way for big data analytics, and it provides a way for the EDW kind of things that you can do over the top of data. So what you can do, you can include your Dataverse database and the tables, and there is a way provided by Dataverse that says Azure Synapse link onto the Dataverse portal, and by this you can be importing your tables back to the Azure Synapse. You can have Spark streaming onto the Azure Synapse portal that will allow the real-time data from the Dataverse that is changing and be flowing onto your applications. We can also have the integration with GitHub. We can have the integration with DevOps, and we can have the export, import, and webhooks kind of ability. So everything is possible inside the Dataverse from an integration point of view. Now, so the security, as I explained, and we can have the environment level boundaries, as in different countries. We can have the row level, we can have the columnar level, row level security, and then we can implement the business logic, as I said earlier. So you can have the calculations, the roll-ups, the flows within the table of the Dataverse. So a small example is what is considered over here is if the credit limit is going over a certain threshold, then it is getting triggered to activate a workflow to send something for approval. So these kinds of business logics can also be implemented. Moving ahead, and so Dataverse also have, I said earlier, it's the heart of the Dataverse is the data itself, and you can connect to multiple data. You can connect via relationships and related data. You can have direct query on the top of the Dataverse, and it would work seamlessly for you. And then it's stored in Azure. It's scalable and with any type of data. So basically, it provides an abstraction layer on the top of the data that you have, and you do not have to worry about anything. You do not have to worry about the storage, the scalability. It's just a button away, and you can scale your Dataverse. For me, I started using Dataverse via a small kind of a license that is called Dataverse for Teams. And within the Dataverse for a team, you can have the 2 GB capacity, and you can create your apps leveraging some SharePoint list over to Dataverse team. You can save it and you can publish it. And as soon as you feel that you are reaching to a threshold of the limit, you can always click a button and you can see upgrade. So actually, you do not have to care for the storage and the scalability of the Dataverse. And I have already gone through integration. So let's talk about data in detail for Dataverse. So as I said, so we have the databases inside the Dataverse. So for each environment inside the Dataverse, you will be given a database. It will have a certain standard set of tables like account and audit and users, and you can have your custom tables built on the top of that. And you can also have multiple databases in the Dataverse. And as I said, we are from the DBMS background, so the tables will have the columns and the rows. So the environment is something that is important to understand over here. So for every Office 365 or a Dynamic 365 license user, you will be getting a default environment. And then you can create your own environment wherein you can have a different kind of a security for your own. You can have a different geographical boundary set up for your environment. And then you can have the different kind of column securities, row level securities, different kind of apps, flows, and reports built on the top of your environment. It's up to you to add people within your environment, or how do you want to manage your environment as well. And okay, so let's go now to powerapps.com. And since we are talking a bit about environment, so once I log in over here, and you can see it says Kumar Ranjan, and to the top right corner, you will always have your environment. So from your Microsoft account 365, you can always have the default, and then you can always create your own environment, and then and set these things from the Power Platform Admin Center. So you can see a button here that says Dataverse, and within Dataverse, you have a couple of few different options. So I want to get into detail. So we have tables. As I said, there would be some standard set of tables that you would be getting along with the Dataverse as in inbox kind of a thing. And then you can always go and create your own table using Dataverse as well. You can import the data within table from, let's say you have an Excel file that is sitting right now into your local machine. You want to build a table inside Dataverse that captures the same schema as that of that Excel and loads the rows as well. So you can go here and you can see import data, and then you can create a data flow of your own and do some Power Query transformations on the top of that Excel, and then you can load that Excel on this Dataverse canvas. So this is about the tables. And once you are into the tables, you can do multiple things. You can assign primary keys, you can assign unique key, you can give a description. For those tables that are standard within Dataverse, you cannot delete them. You cannot delete the columns that we have as a standard table within the Dataverse. But you can edit the names of the columns. That one thing you can do. So this is account column that already exists within Dataverse. You can have the columns that can be seen here. You can have the relationships. If you can go to relationships, you can have multiple relationship that it is creating with different tables, and you can have your own relationships as well. So you can have many to one relationship, and the name is, as the name says, so many rows to one row. So you can take the example of a school where many students can be aligned to a single teacher, and you can have that relationships. And again, you can have one to many, and then you can have many to many, wherein many classes can have many students. So you can have a relationship between the classes and the students as in many to many. So you can create the relationship from here. As I said, there are choices column that is available directly. You can use this choices column directly inside your model within Dataverse. You can use your choices column directly inside the apps that you create. So you can have the Boolean yes or no choice column. You can create your own way of choice column by going to new choice, and then you can keep on adding the choices that you want to give. Let's say you can give the priority, you can give certain values assigned to that priority, and it will be a choice column. Now, let's talk about data flows here. So, as I said earlier, we can have a table that is sitting inside locally, and we can import it. Let's do it this way. I go to import and I say import data, and it will allow me to have what do you want to import. So it will be bringing a canvas for me. So let's wait, it's loading. All right, we are here. I have Excel sheet that I know inside my OneDrive. So I will browse my OneDrive location, and let's bring that Excel and see how the data flows work. So within my files, I can go to desktop right now. I can come down. I can have a broad sample kind of a data. I will hit and I will hit select, and I will hit next. So it is currently bringing us the metadata, the schema of the table, and it will also be bringing the rows inside the table that I have. So it gives me two different sheets. So I'm interested in this sheet one. So it will give you a preview for what I have in the data, and then I will hit next, and then it will load a Power Query editor. So you can have different kind of transformation that you would like to do with your data over here. So you can go to this transform section, and as you are doing inside the Power BI, you can apply multiple transformations. You can have a pivot, you can have a transpose, reverse row, make row as header, and do certain transformation that are clickable over here. And then if you do not want any kind of transformation, as in my case, I will hit next right now, and you can see it will be asking you either you would be wanting to load a new table or you would wanting to overwrite an existing table. So what do you want? So I want this to be loaded as a new table, let's say, and it highlights me the mapping of the columns that I would be mapping the columns from my Excel to this Dataverse. I can change the data type from here as well. And then I can change the table name. So the table name is sheet one. Let's say I want it to be given as demo and the display name as demo. I can add a bit description over here, but that's fine. I hit next, and it will start loading and start refreshing the table inside Dataverse, and it will enable a publish button right now, and I can do a publish, but I would always suggest to go there and hit publish now. That will allow you to publish the table within Dataverse. And if any changes are done, so let's go quickly over to data flows right here. As I'm explaining the data flow, you can see over here, it would be loading the things as in the Power Query. So let's say I have created this new data flow, and behind the hoods, before loading the table inside the Dataverse, so it is doing its kind of transformations within data flow, and the publish is in progress. Once the publish will be completed, it will also do a one-time refresh for that table that you created, for the transformations that you have to get the live data. And you can schedule this refresh every time you need the latest data. So this is the data flow. Once this process will be over, you will get to see the tables that you created within the table section as well. So since it is in the way, we can switch back to our PPT slide. And as I was telling, we can have tables, we can have different things inside tables, we can have relationship, we can have the business logic setup, we can have the different kinds of calculations as in the roll-ups and calculation within table. After tables, I can have different relationships. The relationships are pretty much self-explanatory at that time. As I said, we can have the different kind of business logics setup that you want to apply to the data layer. So it will be applied for the whole security model that is in there, and whether the people is using the app or not, that will be ineffective. And then, yep, we are into the demo right now, and you can see the published has been completed, and it's currently doing a refresh of the Excel data that we are bringing back into the Dataverse campus. Let it be in process. What we can do, we can also rename this one since it is done, and that will also give us a track of what we have. For the integration side of the things, when I was talking about the integration piece, you have an option called Azure Synapse link, and you need to have a link. If you have a link already configured, the link will be displayed here. But if you do not have a link, you can always have a new link over here, and you can have your subscription and the resource group and the storage account that you want your table to go within, the storage account and the serverless side of the Azure Synapse account that you want. And then what you can do, you can have SQL queries running over there as well. You can run Apache Spark on the top of that table that is loaded into the Synapse side, and you can do live streaming of your data as well. So this is about the Azure Synapse link. I recently do not have it configured because of the costing things. And then coming to the connections, will show you the various connections that you have. So I have 1 minute ago, I have recently made this connection. So, and then we can have the custom connectors as well. So your custom connectors will be displayed here within Dataverse. And then at last, you have the gateway section where whatever gateway you are having, the personal and the private, that will be displayed over here. So let's go to data flows to quickly check whether we have the table that's in there or not, the refresh has been finished or not. So you can see the refreshed just finished now. So, and then we can go to our tables, and then, so these are the standard tables. You can always switch to the custom, and the custom will be showing you the tables that you create of your own. So I have created the demo table, and it's right here. So I can go to my demo table and do some things on the top of it. So let's try to build an app, an editable grid app using this table, and we can do lots of things. We can create a Power BI report, and it would be a direct query with this Dataverse, and everything you do something like a grid editable inside the app. The Dataverse table will be refreshed, and since the Power BI is a direct query with your Dataverse, the Power BI will also be refreshed. So I can have two different screens. So let's go back to apps. I want to create a new app. I will make a Canvas app. I will give it a name. I will choose the tablet as of now, the tablet way of creating it, and it will launch the Power Apps Canvas screen for me to create the app. So, okay, so we are creating an editable grid now, and let me go ahead and I will add a new screen to begin with, and I will add the header, main section, and the footer screen. First of all, I will go ahead and delete what I have right now. So inside the screen that I have, I will rename it to my home screen. So while designing Power App, it is always good and always the best practice to give useful and the names that you can understand. So you can end up the app having 5 different screens and different buttons, different layouts, and it would be messy and in the end. So you can always give a useful name. And then within this screen, I have 3 different sections. Right now, I do not want my footer container, so I will get rid of the footer container as well. So I have a header container, then I have a main section container right now. Inside my header container, I want to give some labeling. I will go here, I will insert a text, I will insert a label, and let me call this as demo, and then I will go here, increase the size of it, go to 20, and then I will go here and I will make that thing flexible width on, and then going to my header and doing certain cosmetic changes for it to look good. And I have my demo available. So I can align these things. That will take a few times. So I want to skip that part. I am interested in having the editable grid ready. So whenever you are thinking in Power App, and that's my experience, think of gallery first. So you can have the form layout, you can have gallery layout, but for the editable grid, you need to always think of the gallery first. And in different scenarios, if you want to analyze your data, you have to think of a gallery control first. So that's done. I'm into the main section now, and I want to add a container, and that container will take my headers, and the headers will be what I have inside the table. So I will hit here, hit insert. I will go to container, search for a container and add it. So my main section right now is having a container. Again, I will follow the practice to name this container to, I will say, column headers. I'll say column headers. And what I can do, I can, so if I can open up my Excel that I have right now, and what we have loaded inside Dataverse, so I have these columns. So total I have 7 columns. So I want my editable grid to be looking like an Excel, and it can have the rows as in the column headers and these different rows. So I can go back again, and I again go to, sorry, I again go back to my main section, and then I will click on the label. So it will give you, I'm sorry, I will click on the column headers and I will add a button. So it will give me a button that will act as the column headers for me. I can place it right here. And then for this button, I can give the name as the order date. And then here also, I will be changing the name as in order date. So I have one button configured, and I can have different X property for this button, different width property for this button. I can set this X and width depending on how I want. So right now I want to place it right here. Now I will just want to copy it and paste it again so that it will be easier for me to create all those columns. So this is the second button that I have, and this is, I will be naming it as REGIUL region, and then again I will be going here and renaming it to, and then one more button I will have to, just in the interest of time, I will be placing another button over here, and then I will be calling it as, let's say I will call it as city, and I will be calling it as city. One thing I I want to point out is it do not saves automatically. So into the past, I have this challenge when I have did work for 2-3 hours and it automatically vanishes since I have not saved it. So it's always a good practice to save what you are working upon, to save your app always, and so that you can have it at least one version of it once you run out of some disaster. So it's saving right now. Okay, and you then go back. So I have the columns right now, and one thing I want to share is this is your app. So it can be workable within the small layout of phone. It should be workable if I have a tablet layout. It should be workable in different screens. So the responsiveness is important while working with editable grid. So I have to go to settings. I have to click onto this app first, and then I have to go to settings, and then I have to go to display. And the thing that I want to make sure is my scale to fit is turned off. So this was the first thing that I always do. Somehow I forgot this thing to do here. So just for the responsiveness settings, I want to see that it is off. So I have this thing. Now, just for the intuitive things, something that we want to do is the order date is fine. The region, I will always want my region to get aligned with order date. So let's say I have some column that says description, and your description can be very lengthy, and you want your second column to be aligned as the name changes of the first column. So you can always set it. You can always have the of region set to what you have previously. So the X property of region, I want it to set it to order date dot X plus I want it to be order date dot width. By this way, this column will always be aligned to the right, no matter how frequently the order date changes within our app. And same goes for city. The X property of city would be my region.x plus region dot width. Sorry, typo. So I can have it region.x plus region.width. And there is some error. So when you are having an error, it would be highlighted over here. You can click on here and go to the edit bar. So it says there is an error in the formula. It might be due to the naming. Okay, it's fine now. So it takes the caps is important here, so it is not case sensitive. So you might end up having an error over here. So okay, cool. So we have the setting of these things. So this is the first column, this is the second column, and then it is the third column. And then you can have the additional columns. So if you have 20 columns and this page can fit 10 columns, no worry, you just need to add them, and you can control these things from here. So you click on region, set its X property, and align it to what you have. So we have the columns in place. Let's say, for example, what you can do now is for your data, you can add the gallery component within your main sections. You can hit on the main section. You can select the gallery, and inside the gallery, first I will choose the blank gallery section over here. So as soon as you bring the gallery canvas or you bring the form layout within the screen, it will ask you to have the connection. So my table is demo within Dataverse. So you can say it's available right here. So the S is a suffix that Dataverse has added over there. I will select this, and it will take some time, and it's ready to use. You can see the fields and you can edit the fields over here. All right. So I have my gallery. I will just hit here. I will do some changes over there. I will just okay, so I have the gallery control over here. Let it be on for now. And then I want to add the row labels right here inside this grid, and I want to go to text, and then I want to add a label right here. So the label should be inside gallery, but it's not coming. I want to delete it again. I will select this gallery. I will hit this edit, and then I will go to text and I will add a label. Okay, now you can see this label is inside the gallery that we have. It should be aligned to the order date. So give it a name that you can remember. For me, it would be ORDER underscore date, because I cannot use the same name twice within Power Apps, so I have to use the underscore. I can do again the same thing, Control C and Control V, and then Control C and Control V 3 times, and then I can align these right here. And my first one is order date. I want my second one to be region, and I want my, oh, it says the name exists. I want my second name to be REG, and I want my third one to be, since you have these, you can see the values started coming over here, but you can see that the values are not the same. So the order date can be a date timestamp, then we can have region, we can have city. So you have to change the value that is coming. This is not correct. So for the selection of this, you can see that it is currently bringing the values from this name field. I have to remove it. And for the default property of this item, I have to say that order date. And as soon as I give the order date, you can see the correct data that is available, and it started coming out over here. And then in the same way, I can go over here, I can change it to this name dot region, and then I can, and the region is coming to be correct east. And the third one, this is city, and you can change it to this item, and it will start be displaying the cities that we have. So this is about the gallery. You can edit it and you can set it to go to the top. You can turn on the paddings and can turn on the padding, turn on the height. Then you can give the height. If it is 500, you can make now back to the gallery, back to this, have the flexible height on of the gallery, and then and the template size, let's reduce it. Let's get rid of this template size. Let's give it 40. Okay, the things started coming to be in line. So but they are still not in line. I have to make some cosmetic changes. I will go back again here, and inside the template size, I will make it 5. Tab, region. Okay, so now I want my text boxes that I have here to be in line with the order date and in line with the different dates that I have. So right now, if I go to my gallery, it is a bit should be increase the minimum size.
In the meanwhile, Dhruvin, do you see any questions or comments at YouTube link?
Yes, Abhinav, I have seen many questions on YouTube Live. Basically, I almost answered in the chat section again over there. So mostly the question was around model-driven app side and some business process flow side. So I gave the answer in the YouTube section as well. But meantime, like if anyone has any more question, feel free to add that over here. We are happy to answer your questions.
Okay, so for the order date and these columns to get aligned with what I have as the header rows, I can go here and I can change the X property, and we can make the X property of what I have inside the order date. So I can have the order date dot X to be the X property of what I have. Somehow my gallery seems to be broken out here.
That's not an issue, Kumar. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This is we are understanding it completely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you can set the width property of this different columns to the width property of what you have inside the Everby screen. And then what we have to do is to write a patch functions that sends the editable grid back to the data sources as in the tables that you have. So once this editable grid is designed, you can minimize this, you can go to new screen, you can open a blank canvas app again, and then you can, if you have a Power BI report that is built on the top of your Dataverse, you can create a Power BI report first of all, and then you can publish the report onto the Power BI service, and you can create tiles and dashboards on the top of it. And then you can use that one inside the second screen, and you can wrap that dashboard within that app, so that any changes that you do over here, the same changes would be reflected inside the Power BI. And then you can go to charts in this screen, and you can start with a Power BI tile. It will ask you few certain questions, that what is the workspace name, and what is the dashboard, and what is the tile. You can go here and answer those questions. Let me go ahead and do, if I have something, Kumar Ranjan, and I will select something like editable grid. I will use a tile if it is there. So you can see the Power BI is started getting loaded over here, and I have the report. So I can do a navigation from this page of the app to this screen. I can have the back button to navigate back to the first screen that I have. Right now I have selected a dashboard, but the property pane of this one and the date, and you can see a link that is displayable in the advanced section. You can edit this link, and you can go to app.powerbi.com, and then let's select any report. Let's select editable grid for now. So I have a report. You can go to file, and then you can select embed report, and you can select website or portal. You can have this link, and then what you have to do, just copy this link. You are going back to your portal, and then just remove this one and just paste your link. So rather than having a tile or a dashboard, you can include your overall report also here. So you can see it's your total report that you have. You can have filters on, you can have multi report pages that is inside your second screen of this Power App. And then you can create different forms screen, and you can have this interaction going within the tables of the Dataverse. So if you have a model created within Dataverse, you can have your different tables to do different kinds of the things, and you can manage it within different screens that you have. So this is the Power App grid that I'm working upon. So somehow the gallery portion of it is not getting aligned, but that can be fixed. So it's just a property that I'm not remembering right now, but it's uh, this way the Power BI works intuitively with Dataverse and the Power Apps right now. All right, so yep. One more thing that I wanted to cover is there have been few questions that asked over the communities in which cases we should not use Dataverse. So in those cases where, so it's not a replacement of analytics cube or a tabular cube. And since Power BI is so fast in reading the data from cube, the billions of data from the cube, because it have its own columnar storage that we call as vertipath. So in those cases, it's not a replacement for the cubes or a different kind of a Azure function that are you using, but it's a way more than that. I can say I can have data services. So it's not actually a database. Dataverse is not a database. It's actually a data service that provides you a lot more kind of things that you can do with the Power Platform. So I'm open for any questions as we are running out of time.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Kumar, for this wonderful explanation about the beginning, overall beginner things, because I think who are the new in the Dataverse, it's a good to check this session before they get started. So you covered almost every basic thing. So at this moment we don't have any pending question in the chat window. On YouTube we had some question which I already answered. It's more about model driven apps and business process flow around. It's not related to mostly the beginner session that you discussed, so basically I answered those questions. But yeah, thanks a lot for this wonderful session, and I'm very happy to share the overall analytics. Like today in the morning as well, over 130 plus people joined from the YouTube live, and many people join in the teams as well. So the amazing one, and thanks a lot for this amazing session.
Yeah, awesome, awesome again, and thank you again for having me over here and share what I have been working around for the past couple of months now. And it's pleasure to again share the forum with you all. Yeah.
Yep, thanks a lot,
Yep.
Kumar. And definitely everyone who is joining us from YouTube Live and Teams, we would be having our next session on next month. So stay tuned with us, and we will declare the next event on our all social media handles. And I'm also happy to announce one more series for my YouTube channel in the next month, which is Power Ups and Dataverse, which will be the complete start to end series. A few years back, I got a very good response on Power Ups beginner series with SharePoint. I receive more and more comment for Dataverse and Power Apps, so that is going to be live from next week. So stay tuned over there as well. So
Awesome.
with this,
Then this one acts as a teaser for that, right? Thanks much, Kumar.
yeah,
Yep.
it's a teaser for that. Absolutely. So yeah, see you soon in our next event, and wishing you a very happy Sunday. So bye. Have a great day ahead.
Thanks all for
Thank you
joining.
again.
Have a great day indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks much, Kumar. Thank
Yeah.
Mm.